September. My name is Alexa Aviles, and I'm humbled and pleased to be the new chair of the youth board. So thank you so much. I really look forward to working with you all this year. So before we kind of launch into some business, many of you, all of you know that our colleague Anthony Sumner, who was the vice chair of the youth board and served many years, he passed away. So we would love to, start this meeting in our silence.
Hi. My name is Ray. It's Ray Oleski, and I'm a consultant.
I'm Tom Pendleton. I'm the New York City
Maureen O'Connor, Police Library. Megan Keenan, I'm the Senior Director for Youth Workforce Policy here at DYCD.
Reggie Miller, Scenes of Peace.
Angela Goodwin, representing Director Foster from NYPD Region Community.
William West, NYPD Community Affairs Office.
Courtney Ramirez, ACS.
Hi, Liz Briggs with the Borough Government Foundation. Having been targeted to
folks, we have on the phone Suzanne Peters. Suzanne, you're there? Suzanne? She's gone. So, all right.
We have a full agenda. First of all, I want to thank Alexa for stepping up to the plate. I think he did an incredible job. I want to thank him. He had an opportunity he did not turn down to return to Detroit to help his hometown to help rebuild. So I think it's one of those rare opportunities you can say no. But I welcome Alexa. She's well experienced in the world of philanthropy. And there are a lot of things we can learn from the foundation world, some of which we can do in government, some of which we can't. But I think it's important because I think we're at an important time in the history of DYCD. And as somebody was here for 8 years in the previous administration, it's always good to have perspective about these things. And so I won't go over the report. There's a lot of things that happened in the summer. There is never a slow time. I mean, the only time I can think of a year where there's nothing to talk about is probably from Thanksgiving to New Year's. And then even then we have the toy drive. And it's to the credit of the staff here who want to do these events and these activities, partly because they want to see the impact of the investments we're making, partly because they want to celebrate with the young people and their parents. So there's literally, I did not go to most of these events. It's just possible. I do want to say a few things that were not in the report. I know I missed the last meeting because I was actually in northern Spain on vacation. So I'm not sure how much of the budget was covered. So again, a new record as far as our budget. I think it was $819 million, which if you think, and that doesn't count another, I think 17 million that's coming from the state for the Summer's Employment Program. We always get the money late. We were about $840 million budget. We were under $400 million in the previous administration. It was more than double. And most of the money is what we call government baseline, permanent. And so the biggest chunk of money that was made permanent was the Summer's Employment Program. So this year, 80% of our budget, which is mostly city tax levy money, was permanent. So with that, we can now do the request for proposal. So today, I think, I checked this right before I came on, our concept paper will be on our website, and it will lay out, well, there's several things we want to achieve. One is we want to grow capacity, because the current programs, when the contracts were awarded, Megan, do you remember when, was this 2010?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, these contracts have been in place for 6 years or so, and so they were designed to basically run a system of maybe 40,000. We're at 70,000. So we've asked a lot of the existing programs to do way more than they were expected to do. So we hope to bring on new programs. And one of the things that came out of the work group with the City Council this summer was ideas about how to do specialized programming. So for example, among the things that we're going to be doing is, for the first time, have dedicated standalone programs in public housing developments that have high crime. So we're hoping to encourage new providers, maybe some of the people who run community centers to run this. And one of the great things is that because the money was baseline, of the 3,000 young people who apply every year, this past summer we guaranteed each of them a job. And so when you can guarantee somebody a job, you can begin to measure the impact over time to see how we're moving the needle on the dial as far as these young people who live in public housing. So we encourage, once the concept paper is out, we'll send it around, we'll encourage comments. There's a school partnership effort, which I think we need to flesh out more with DOE. It's open what the capacity of DOE is to do. I know Career and Education is doing an internship program with 500 jobs this summer. So maybe we can't use many if we'd like to. But the other thing that will be interesting about this request for proposal is the 2-year rollout. Because, so we're going to launch some of the new initiatives this coming summer. The existing contracts will be in place so we can operate until next summer, and then the rollout will be completed next summer. That allows some continuity of services because the council gave us money this year for Work, Learn, and Grow, which is employment for young people during the school year, and those programs are attached to existing programs. So if you shut down those programs, you can't do those services. The other interesting feature in the RFP will be what's called an open-ended RFP, meaning that if you don't apply this year, you can come back and apply next year. And that we hope will encourage more people to build partnerships with schools, because we know from experience, the best partnerships are the ones that take time. And you just can't, give people 3 weeks to build a partnership and then submit a proposal. So I'm hoping the additional time will encourage nonprofits to work with schools on something we've never really done, which is really an active program in the summer. Most of the partnerships have been school year partnerships, and the principals have to play not as active a role. I mean, they post the space, they provide a staff person to be a liaison. Here, we're asking schools to do way, way more than we've ever asked schools. So that's, it's untested, but we want to test it. The other bit of information I want to share with you is that the Beacon program is now fully funded. The contract started September 1st. We had some turnover, which is healthy. The 80 existing sites, 16 change sponsors. That's about 20% turnover. Of the 16, 13 turned over because the agency operating it decided not to apply. So there's truly, as far as turnover, 3 locations, 11 new programs that were added. So we have 91 beacons scattered throughout the city. So that's it took a 2-year effort. Last year was the 25th anniversary, so we're set up. I spoke to the Beacon directors about a week ago. We're laying a strong foundation for the next 25 years. And related to that, I've gotten the Partnership for After-School Education has agreed to have an annual Richard Murphy Leadership Award, which will be launched later this year. I'll get the word out to people once we have a date. It's either December 6th or December 7th. The plan is to present the first awards to David Jenkins. So come full circle since David Jenkins was the one who appointed Richard Murphy. And then they'll make it part of their annual Pacesetter Award going forward. And the last bit of information is we finally will have a lease for this location. We have been in this space now going on almost 3 years. In December of 2014 was when we moved in. So we have what's called an occupancy agreement, which allowed us to occupy the space but not to renovate the space. And if you walk around, you'll see a lot of empty cubicles on this floor, and then there's an 18th floor. Half the floor is unoccupied cubicles. So now, I think in fact there's a DCAS hearing today on the lease. So once that is signed off, we can then execute the lease and relocate. We're now in 3 locations. So the plan is to have the workforce people who are at 161 William, which is down the road, to move here. Because we wanted to stay close to small business services and economic development projects which are across the street. And then the literacy people will probably go to 2 Lafayette. So we'll be in 2 locations, which is progress. It's a good problem because the reason we need the spaces is move faster than the plan was 6 years ago. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. And just on the federal budget, there's a lot of detail. So there's no news, which is good news. There are massive cuts proposed to many of the programs that we received funding for, but because Congress couldn't get to an agreement, there's a continuing resolution to December 8th. And then we're in the election cycle in 2018, so who knows what will happen.
I just asked a question I've asked you before, but I don't remember the answer. Is
Hopefully I will.
Unfortunately, there are many people in the country, particularly politicians, who don't recognize why it's so important for young people to be engaged in the summer. And with all of the young people that we have and all the money that there is there a substantial research piece that you have attached to it? Because there's no question it will come up again. Well, why should it? Well, let them go find them. All the things that we've heard over the years, make questions about research.
Well, so I attended I think it's in the report. Andriano, the congressman from Washington Heights, hosted a visit with Bobby what?
Bobby Scott.
Bobby Scott.
Ranking member.
He's a ranking member of the House Labor Education Committee, which, if the Democrats recapture the House next year, in theory, he would be chair. Yes, well, you know, and but the challenge, and I said to Congressman Scott, it's interesting. He's actually the first African American elected in Virginia post Reconstruction. He's half Filipino. A Wikipedia page. And I said to him that New York is a great example, but it doesn't play in the parts of the country that you need support. And I said to him, and we had someone from Wharton there, and I think we had someone from NYU who had done research on SYP. I said it would be great if there is an example of a city in the South or the Midwest where they can show the impact on jobs like SYP or other youth employment programs. Because there you're playing to an audience that would resonate in Congress. It doesn't resonate in Congress if New York does well. That's the challenge.
The results, I agree with you, but the results of why it's important that
Right.
we take for granted that that influence of young people working. Even though there were studies
Right.
done decades ago at varying times,
Right.
still to talk about really
Right.
thousands, people don't like New York,
Oh.
they don't like New York.
Well, so the two studies which the congressman heard, and I think his staff will follow it. One is the Wharton study, which looked at the fact that young people who got a job just once had a lower mortality rate and a lower incarceration rate. And then the NYU study, which looked at the impact of young people who had who were participating more than one summer, there was actual improvement in academics and school attendance. So one of the things I mentioned to the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice Services, now that we will have baseline funding for jobs in these 15 public housing developments, I would love to evaluate over a course of years
Yes,
what impact
yes.
this will have if you can guarantee a young person a job from 14 to 21. Now, the issue is always, with any program, particularly for older youth, is that there is a self-selection process here. So the young people who, the more engaged young people apply, and so how do you reach the young people who are not engaged? And in public housing, there's a disproportionate number of young people who are out of school and out of work. So are we reaching them? So there's a lot of layers to this. So I think one of the areas I would like to do more research in is now that we have baseline funding for 3,000 or more jobs in the other area that we're looking to grow is the vulnerable youth segment of somebody's employment, those that are court involved, foster care, or homeless. And so one of the things I'm hoping to do is expand the universe, because right now we have 6 programs who were brought on 6 years ago to do 1,000 jobs. They did 3,000 last year, 3,000 this year. They're beyond capacity. So I'm reaching out to groups that historically may not have thought about running a summer job program. Like Women in Need, they run family shelters around the city. This year they referred 100 young people who they worked with during the school year to summer jobs. So I spoke to Commissioner Hansel at ACS, and I said, look, many of the foster care agencies that you fund, that they referred young people to this program. Maybe they may want to apply, because then this could be a wraparound service for what they already do during the school year. So, and again, that's another segment where we can guarantee a young person a job, because there's no lottery. And so I'm hoping these smaller programs will yield interesting results that we can sell the program nationally and locally.
Very good. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions?
Great, so I guess we'll move on. We are going to have a presentation from the American Institutes of Research, who evaluated the SONYC initiative. So today they'll present some preliminary findings and tell us about the methodology they used in their evaluation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Deborah Moroney. I'm with the American Institutes for Research. Do I have a clicker or Jesse, you want to
Well, Jesse, do you want to?
While we're setting that up, I just want to thank the commissioner and all of you for having us here today. I don't know your name, Ray. I want to thank Ray for setting me up with the good research questions.
Part of my role.
I'm sorry the air conditioner got turned, down because it's always fun giving a research presentation when everyone's really warm. So I'll try to keep it brief. I think I have about 12 to 15 minutes to talk, but Jesse's going to test me on time, and then I'm definitely open to questions. So, Jesse, you want to answer? So this is a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. So we are the evaluators of the Schools Out New York City initiative, and I just want to get a read of the room. Does everyone know what the Schools Out New York City initiative is? Right. So it is just a little background. It is my favorite project, and it is a universal middle school after school program. We're going to give the 101 of the evaluation. We've been doing a lot of stuff for the past 3 years. We will not go into detail on all of it. And then really focus on the Youth Leadership Development Survey, which is, we think, really interesting and important. And then we'll open it up to questions. So just a little bit about us. I'll go ahead and let you read the slide. That's not super interesting in my opinion. There's a couple of things about the American Institutes for Research that I think are interesting. One is that we have a misnomer. So we do, of course, conduct research and evaluation, but we also conduct policy, practice, and systems change. So we're taking the findings of research and evaluation and applying them to practice and policy. So quite pertinent to all of the conversations you kicked us off with this morning. The other is Jesse and I work with a rather large group of people at American Institutes for Research in the Youth Development and Supportive Learning Environments group. And our entire goal is to support initiatives through research, evaluation, policy, practice, and systems change who support young people on their pathways towards a positive future in school and out of school time. So again, quite pertinent to all the good work you're doing here in New York City. I feel the urge to just out myself a little bit. I'm a Chicagoan, I'm not a New Yorker, but I'm a huge fan of your city and really wish the rest of the country had the same commitment to supporting young people on that pathway. We have the honor and privilege to work here and in other places, and really what you're doing is quite phenomenal. Just a little bit about our approach to this work with DYCD. Denise is here. We've been absolutely working in collaboration with the team, with the SONYC team and the evaluation team at DYCD. So we both like to be collaborative where we can, where clients will have us with our client, but also we engage in both participatory evaluation and empowerment research in the field, which means we collaborate with the folks in programs, which is a lot of fun. So here is the quick and dirty on the SONYC evaluation. So excuse me if everyone already knows this, I'm not sure what the background is. But 3 years ago, DYCD put out an RFP for the evaluation of the SONYC expansion. And just for context, the SONYC expansion compelled DYCD to offer programs that went from about 100 programs to 500, around 18,000 young people to over 77,000 young people. So that was a very ambitious expansion. And I tell everyone the RFP was so smart, because it didn't ask the evaluator to evaluate outcomes of young people in that expansion in year one. It said, we really want to know how the expansion is going and what programs are doing and what they're focusing on. So we were very excited about that, and we were, of course, honored and privileged to have been selected to be the evaluator. So what did we do? Well, we did what they told us to do, but we thought it was the right thing to do. We went very deep with 37 programs across New York City that had been selected as high quality programs. And we talked to every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the program to say, what is it that you're doing? What is it that's working? How is the expansion going? Tell us everything. And we also observed a whole bunch of programs. So we have a whole bunch of numbers, but it was thousands and thousands of hours of talking to people in programs. We learned a lot of really interesting things. One, and this isn't surprising to any of you programs, no matter what they were doing, we're focusing on youth leadership development. If they were doing STEM, if they were doing literacy, if they were doing recreation, they were still focusing on youth leadership development. And I wasn't going to talk about this finding, but the commissioner mentioned something earlier, so I want to mention it. They also really elevated that program-school partnership as primary to the success of the program. So that's something we looked at in year 2, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. Then, pertinent to this conversation, we also asked young people how they felt about taking surveys, how they felt about being asked, how they were doing, and how they felt about the different mechanisms we use to administer surveys. No one will be shocked here to learn they feel over-surveyed, absolutely, didn't like the survey we tried out, which was an existing survey out in the field. No offense to that survey, it just didn't fit with what you all were doing in SONYC programs. But they appreciated taking the survey using technology. We piloted on iPads at the time. So we learned a lot in that first year. In the second year, we went wide. We said, all right, we already went deep, we're going to go wide. And we kind of capitalized on that issue between school program partnerships. And we talked to the leadership in the program and at the school to go deeper about how that was going. And we learned a whole bunch of great stuff from principals and program directors about what it really takes to make a successful partnership. You'll see this later, but we put out a brief about it in the hopes that other programs could learn from those initiatives and activities. And then we kept talking to young people. We always talk to young people. That's a goal of the program. Again, to ask them what they thought about the youth leadership practices specifically that we learned were so important to the adults in the program in year 1. And they told us a whole bunch of great stuff. I haven't mentioned in the past 2 slides because it's not as sexy, but I think it's helpful that we also spend a lot of time analyzing the data that's in DYCD online. A lot of it. All right. So that year, we learned that the survey we tried out wasn't going to work. We said, this is a unique initiative. This is a unique, truly youth development focus on youth leadership development. We're going to develop our own survey, and we're going to do it the right way. I'll tell you about how we did it in a minute. All right, in year 3, what did we do in year 3? That was this year. We decided to really challenge ourselves and talk to the people who were going to really tell us what was going on, and that's families and program staff. We're still analyzing that data. We'll get back to you on that. But that's really critically important. So we went initiative-wide and talked to families, and we had a great return rate. If you want to know what it is, Jessie always remembers the numbers. I don't. And then we piloted, or we actually fielded the survey, in a representative sample of programs. And so this is really important to research. We did not go across the initiative and burden every young person by taking the survey. We chose a representative sample of programs, so in the findings we can say, based on what we found here, we can say this with, be assured that we can say this across the initiative, which was really critically important. And then we also looked at DYCD online. All right, so here is an animated slide. Okay, thank you. So again, I just want to point out that throughout the initiative, we are looking at implementation. We are asking all of the stakeholders, how's it going in the program? What does the quality of the program look like? What's important to learn? What we're talking about here today, and what a lot of people in the room are focused on, what we mentioned as important stakeholders, are how are young people faring, and in this case, how are they developing leadership skills as a result of their participation. And throughout the evaluation, we've been working collaboratively with DYCD and the communications folks to develop field-friendly resources, infographics, briefs, and lessons learned so that we can share what we're learning so that all of you and your colleagues can make really important program decisions. Some of my colleagues are data vacuums and don't like to tell people what they learn. We believe in sharing. So, the really fun but complicated part of this evaluation is how do you measure success? How do you measure youth leadership? And many of you may have been trying to do this or reading the New York Times op-ed section. Angela Duckworth wrote about all the challenges and conundrums in measuring social and emotional competencies for which leadership is a part. We are very much a part of those conversations. But I'll just say here, this is not a new challenge in social sciences. It's just new to our field. So we're very, very lucky at AIR to have a survey and data sciences team who have been dealing with this We've been leading Project Talent, which you may know about. For those of you in workforce, that has been measuring these exact kind of skills for many, many years. So we went through a very traditional and rigorous process to develop the youth leadership survey, but with a spirit of participation with the young people in their programs. So we had a little twist. So what did we do? How did we develop the survey? Well, it was a lot of fun. The first thing we did was a little bit adultist in retrospect, but we got a group of grown-ups in the room who specialize in youth leadership development and social and emotional learning and said, what does the literature say? What do you know about youth leadership development? And they spent like 14 hours talking about it and arguing with each other. But it was good. It was really good and important conversation. So we got that information. And then we took the second step, which was the most important step. We went out, and I mentioned this before, and we talked to young people in programs in New York City about what youth leadership meant to them. And for the most part, there was a lot of agreement between the young people and the grown-ups, and the young people mostly expanded on those ideas. The third thing we did was we collected items from instruments all over the world, so not just in the United States, that aim to measure the different components of youth leadership. And we looked at, how well those items match up with the ideas that the grown-ups and the young people had given us. And then we went out and we took the items back out with SONYC participants, and we asked them about the items. Does this item resonate with you? Does this language resonate with you? How would you say it? And we revised the items. So I'm on time, and I'm never good at keeping on time, but I'm going to tell you just one little story. When we had a draft of the survey, after young people had helped us to revise it, we showed it to a couple of grown-ups. And we said, what do you think of this? And they said, we think this is great. This absolutely will measure youth leadership development. But middle schoolers would never be able to understand these questions. And I laughed. And I said, in fact, they helped us to develop these questions. So that's, I think, just an example of what we come across and why it's so critically important to engage young people in these sorts of participatory activities as we're thinking about both program development and evaluation. So we developed the survey. It was way too long. The surveys always start out way too long. We piloted it with a little over 1,000 young people. We tested it to make sure it was valid and reliable. It had like decent properties at that point, which is super exciting because now it has great properties. We improved some of the items, and then we fielded it again this past year. So just to kind of reiterate, what is the Youth Leadership Development Survey? It is a survey currently designed for use with middle school youth to share their perceptions of their own attitudes, beliefs, and skills around youth leadership development. Have folks seen this? So within DYCD and the Compass unit, I can't take credit for this, I think it's really super. A group of folks came together, led by Denise, of course, to develop a framework for youth leadership development so that staff would have a common language around youth leadership development. I'm glad Jessie brought a handout because I couldn't read those little constructs. If you paid me, I would have my glasses on. But I'm just going to focus on that little magenta quadrant on the far left side. So basically, the Youth Leadership Development Framework suggests there needs to be an explicit focus on youth leadership attitudes and skills. There needs to be actionable activities, hands-on experiential activities in order to engage in those intentional activities, and then reflection on that learning. Within the attitudes and skills quadrant, you see the components of youth leadership development that the DYCD team put together and we helped hone through the processes that I just mentioned earlier. So these are the main components of the Youth Leadership Development Survey: inner self characteristics, communication, and collaboration. Jessie just gave me you're talking too much signal. So we love as researchers to say what you can and cannot do with surveys, but all we're basically saying here is what it was validated to do. Certainly you can do what you want with it, but it might not be as reliable to use it in other situations. So again, it was intended to be used by young people as a self-reflection tool on their own attitudes and skills. It can absolutely be used at the activity or program level. It can be aggregated up, which is a good thing. It can be used individually or aggregated up. and it can be used for program improvement purposes. What it can't be used for are the two things that, in my experience, grown-ups love to do. It can't be used as an observation tool, so I can't use it and rate Commissioner Chong on his leadership skills. It's not validated, and it cannot be used as a pre and post measure. This is critically important. The items weren't developed to be used that way. That's a really fun, interesting conversation. If you want to have coffee with me, I'd be happy to tell you why, but we won't go into it here. So what did we learn? You'll notice it's not on the slide, and that's because the findings are preliminary. We're still doing the analysis, but here are a couple of really interesting things that we learned, or I think they're interesting. One is the survey is functioning really, really well, which you might not be as excited as I am about that, or Denise is about that, but that means it is an excellent instrument and can be used across settings. So we're thrilled, and that is a real challenge in our field. The other thing that's hot off the presses is that the majority of SONYC participants report very high self-perception and leadership skills. So it is going in the hypothesized direction. SONYC is implementing youth leadership activities. Young people are experiencing youth leadership, and they're reporting on that. So this is terrific, and that is a weighted general. We're not talking about averages here. This is a weighted generalized sample. So we're really pleased and excited about that. I'm not going to go into interpreting the rest of the findings. I'm just going to put them out there, and we can talk about them later. But we did a lot of comparisons. We looked at a lot of relationships amongst subgroups, across boroughs. We looked at different kinds of activity clusters. One interesting finding that I think we should talk about more, but not right now, is that young people who participate in programs that are characterized by mostly academic reported lower youth leadership scores. We had lots of conversations around that in the office. Very interesting. Now again, I'm from Chicago. I'm not from New York, but we have a lot of neighborhood pride in Chicago. I don't know if you have borough pride here, if that equates. Overarchingly, participants in the Bronx reported higher youth leadership scores than any other borough. And that was statistically significant. Jesse and I are shrugging our shoulders. We didn't know if there would be like a lot of cheering or yeah, so we thought that was interesting. Girls reported higher collaboration. Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. So I think I'll stop there on some of the preliminary findings, but we think it's very exciting, and again, a lot of the findings go in the hypothesized direction, which is good for the program, it's good for communications, it's good for understanding how the survey works.
Sure, of course. First of all, this is fabulous and wonderful presentation.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether it's something you feel comfortable answering in terms of what you know. I can remember when the word youth leadership as a means of design and program came into me. And we all talk about it. Oh, yes, of course.
Right.
My question is, what do the young people think that will mean? Because the issue of leadership, it changed.
Yeah.
Leadership meant you were president of school.
Right.
Going back a million years.
Yeah.
But I do remember, and everyone talks about, oh yes, youth leadership.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing, what does that mean? I know what it takes, what we're talking about to develop a young person. These are the skills or the attitudes that you want someone to have. But I'm really curious, when you said some of those things, what did they think youth leadership survey meant? What did you think?
No, I think that's a great question. And that was, interestingly, a lot of the debate with the grown-ups in the room when I was talking about those 14 hours. I think for many of us, myself included, we get stuck on sort of those higher level framework titles, even though the competencies are the same over and over. Young people were less divided on that issue. The one thing, and I'm checking Jessie on this, she's always checking me on my details, but the one observation I would make, a generational observation, and I'll say this for myself, is that the adults tend to characterize youth leadership in those more traditional ways, like being the leader of a club, or where young people identified competencies and skills that were more in the social and emotional domain, being more sure of oneself, and being a leader amongst peers, being an inspiration to peers, being a mover leading a movement, some of the more community organizing constructs, which I think is totally characteristic of this generation in cities, frankly. So I think that was really interesting. Jesse, would you have anything? Jesse's very quiet, but is leading a lot of this work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think there's also a lot of talk around being able to meet peers in different groups and sort of knowing how to communicate with different people in different ways and what does that look like and when you're in school versus out of school in your neighborhood and what does that look like. And be kind.
Being kind, yeah, that was another one that came up
What
with
was the word say that
youth.
I mean, one of the events I went to, I think it was in May, was the service, something was in May. It was pouring cats and dogs. I mean, sheets of rain. It's the kind of day grown-ups, it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's the kind of day adults would turn over and go back to sleep. We had a sort of like a gathering at John Jay College to celebrate the best of the best, right? Because we encourage service programs throughout all the programs, Keenan, SONYC, and there were 200 young people that jammed the auditorium at John Jay. I was just blown away because and it was and for this, they looked at it as problem solving. They took the problem in your neighborhood, it could be recycling, it could be graffiti, and they worked on us, and they worked collaboratively. They had to build a campaign around it. All the sort of skills that are transferable, no matter what application you choose. And so I was just blown away because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be speaking to 10 young people.
Yeah.
And so that to me, and that sense of pride, we accomplished something.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we see it in Chicago. I'm sure you're seeing it here. The youth leadership is shaping up to be more a part of a movement and being an active in that in a variety of leadership ways.
So I kind of can tell from looking at this, but we usually talk about youth development as a general framework. So I was interested that this was all used the word leadership, and it may be that that's more perhaps something that how do these two things align in the model?
So for DYCD, when we put up the framework, we have a framework around development, of which leadership is a component, and social emotional. So we call it LEAP internally, but it's called promoting the positive across all of our programs. Youth leadership is a specific component, and in the SONYC RFP, it was a requirement that folks had activities related to youth leadership development. But we also talk about social emotional learning. I'm bringing that up because some of the competencies which are reflected here are, of course, part of that. And we have adopted the CASTLE, I forget what CASTLE stands for, but the CASTLE approach to the competencies. And one of the conversations we're having now is looking at what they've done and seeing how we can extrapolate that or start working on survey that looks at older youth, not just the middle school, but older youth, to look at what is going on in some of our employment programs or out of school youth programs. So I'm excited about that. But I also want to give a shout out to, because I think Newburgh Women here, Tracy Garcia, who, we had the service learning RFP, and one of the things we did under Commissioner Chong is to say service learning wasn't just an activity that was going to be funded through a particular slice, but that the whole of DYCD program. So you'll see youth leadership or service learning referenced in the Beacon RFP, the Cornerstone RFP, for example, and for summer. So we took what had been a pilot and looked at how we could take it throughout all of our programs. So I'm excited.
If you'll humor me just for a second, Tom, this is something I talk about a lot, so I'm going to do my own little thing. So we think in the world, we think about youth development, which is my background, as a strengths-based and universal approach. We think about social and emotional learning as an intentional process to build social and emotional competencies within that framework. And I think uniquely, DYCD has come up with just a package, for lack of a better word, for a set of outcomes called youth leadership development that are the results of those two things. And I think that's where the rest of, or we know, frankly, the rest of the field is going, yeah, youth development is right, SEL makes sense, then what? Well, they have you have the then what? So that's my thinking about it, and we've done some writing about it if you're interested. So what does the results of all that stuff mean in the world? You all were nodding because you're invested stakeholders and think it's interesting maybe, but we think the most important part of an evaluation is giving information back so people can make informed improvements and answer important questions. So again, we've been collaborating with DYCD to create resources to support practitioners as they implement programs that support youth leadership development based on all that stuff that I talked about earlier. So there's a youth self-reflection tool for staff. We all know that if people can reflect on their own practice, they tend to improve their practice based on that model. A glossary of terms, because a lot of these terms are new to practitioners. I was a full-time practitioner 20 years ago and didn't know what the heck I was doing, to be honest, so that would have been really helpful to me. And again, these field-friendly briefs, we had thousands and thousands of hours of talking to people. We didn't want that just to result in the technical report, which, Keith and Lisa Reed and the commissioner, of course, but then what? So we've been putting out field-friendly briefs just to support practitioners as we learn things and to give them a voice. So what's next? We're going to finish analyzing all that data and give it back to you so you can actually use it. And we really, in this coming year, we're going to firm up our plans later today, but we really hope to continue to look at that relationship between practice and outcomes. So what is it that you do in your programs that results in positive outcomes for young people and across settings? And the other thing we've been talking about, and I think it's okay to say here, is we're looking at expanding the survey items so that we can other people could use it for older youth, and younger youth, older elementary youth as well. And it's actually not a big reach to do that with what we can. It's so good. Just add a couple things. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be a little bit of work, but it will be helpful. That's exactly. I took up more time than I think that
I just want to highlight the skills pathways, the commissioner interested in program integration and services. So we're kicking off a conversation internally led by Aaron tomorrow to just look at what are the skills that each of the program areas are striving to evolve for their young people so that we can begin to map and communicate for any young person. This is what you're learning in SONYC. This is how this lines you up for SYD. This is lines you up for something else so that they can see really it's, pathways and not just a set of activities, but how are you building competencies if you stay in the DYCD's way of services. And this is one of the things the commissioner has been promoting, and not just for young people, but also so that internal program areas don't just see this is what we do, but what do you do and what is the handoff, right, to the next set of activities. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We know that development doesn't happen in one program or one setting or only with families or only in schools. It happens across contexts, across a lifespan. So we're thrilled and honored to be a part of that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to continuing the conversation. So I'm going to quickly switch to a very important business element now that we have quorum. Our last meeting was July 12th. June 14th. We'd like to, if someone would make a motion to approve these glorious minutes that we all reviewed. Is there a second? All in favor? Thank you so much. Meeting minutes have been approved. Now we'd like to move along to, we revived the program committee because there was interest among board members to really kind of dive deeper and learn more about DYCD's programs and operations. And the committee met this summer on July 12th. I'd like to know if maybe some of the committee members who are participating would like to report back to the larger group on these discussions.
say a few words about the
Testing, all set. So yeah, we met over the summer, the program committee for the first time, and again, it's the opportunity to go a little bit deeper with DYCD on certain programs, but also deeper with each other. Reggie is on the committee, and there was a lot of exchange of ideas just among committee members. At this meeting, we focused on both, I'm looking at the Compass program and also the neighborhood development area programs. One thing that I discussed with the commissioner at the beginning of this meeting is, although some people may not be able to commit to joining the program committee, I know you're all really busy, what we might do is advertise the topic of each program committee before we hold it. So if there is a meeting that you are interested in, that you want to join, or you have some time on your hands, we'd love to have you come when you're able to.
Great.
Great, well, thank you so much. Thank you for meeting in the summertime and the report back, and more to come for sure. Next, we'll be moving on. We're a little behind schedule, so I'm going to try my best to move along. Next, we're going to have some brief highlights around the SYP program, some youth employment, which, as Commissioner Chong mentioned, is the largest in history of the agency. And then we're going to jump into the performance partnership pilot and presentation by Megan Keenan. Hi.
I'm doing both of those things.
Oh,
okay. I'm going to sit here since I don't have a wing person to assist me with the PowerPoint. But so yes, I will kick off with a little, just very brief, kind of high-level highlights from SYEP. We're still putting together all the data, crunching the numbers, and I think when you hear the numbers, you'll understand why that's such a large undertaking. We served more youth than ever before this summer, with over 70,000 young people working in SYEP. And we had a budget of $126.4 million. We received over 147,000 applications, and we had over 11,000 work sites. We served over 3,000 youth through the vulnerable youth option of SYEP, and over 3,000, I'm not sure that's right, but we served a record number of youth through Ladders for Leaders, and I think
1,800 and something.
it was 1,800.
But to give some perspective, 3 years ago it was 475.
Right. So it's quite a large increase. So, as you may be aware, every year DYCD compiles an annual report which really goes and cleans up the data, goes through all the numbers, gets into the demographics, the ages, all of that stuff. So you should look for that later this fall. I'm sure Anthony will share it with you once it's out. And as the commissioner said, the concept paper for the next procurement for SYEP programs is coming out today, if it's not already up. Comments on the concept paper are due October 12th. Please share it with your networks. We are looking to expand the pool of potential providers, as the commissioner said, so email it to everyone you know. Anthony will also send you the link to that.
One sentence I want to make sure, we get press with this. We had a 400% increase in the last 3 years in young people opening up bank accounts. And I forgot, was it 20,000? Something like 20,000?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went from like 5,000 to like 20,000. And it was part of a financial literacy initiative that the City Foundation supported over the last 3 years. And it's incredible that, because many of the young people who come to the Early Youth Employment Program come from underbanked neighborhoods. And so we I think added the Navigator this year, which allowed a young person to find banks in their community. So, and Brownsville was one of the areas where seriously underbanked. I mean, there's like 2 banks and you have to take a bus to get to them. And so it's part of what we're trying to do is kind of take advantage of the fact that we have this universe of young people who are new to the workforce and begin to set them on a path of financial independence. And having, all the other bank handlers is a big deal.
Is the Navigator on the website?
I don't know.
The reason that I say that is because how fabulous for the young people who were introduced to this. But there are all these other young people who would do this if they knew which bank to go to, because you can't walk into a bank and say, hey, listen, I'm 14 and here's my dad and I'd like to.
I don't think it's on the website. I went to the website this morning, looked at the concept paper. It might be something that we send out directly to the participants, because you have to have the DYCD debit card, the SYD debit card to open up your account.
Is there a way, I know I've asked this each year, but is there a way to take that, because fabulous, finally, that there's a way for young people to have a bank account and be able to make it so that DYCD says this is a potential that's open up, and this is what you would need. You know, you would need some kind of something.
Well, it's what you need is the debit card page. So that's a closed universe. So
True, but kids do work. Kids do get some, other kinds
it's a
of
bigger
money.
thing.
I
It
know.
took us to negotiate the banks.
I know.
To agree to use the debit card was a big challenge. So it takes someone more than DYCD to get banks to agree to, because most banks don't have user-friendly bank accounts. You have to have a minimum balance.
Right. That's my point.
Activity fee. So that's a larger conversation that beyond DYCD. We, I think, made headway in this and trying to get these banks to use the debit card as a payment method so they can use their ATM. That's something to consider.
There's another city agency that's focused on this also, right?
Consumer affairs, I think.
Consumer affairs.
Right.
They have a big initiative in this area. So
And the SYUP staff works closely with DCA to implement this. And I would also say, Ray, that, we are trying to figure out, just in the workforce unit, how can we transport what has really been a smashing success in SYUP to other programs. But also, as I'm sure you know, all of our WIOA programs, and I'm sure in YIP too, have a financial literacy component. So it may not, have this direct link to opening accounts, but there is an effort to help people
Right.
understand.
I think negotiating with the banks, who does that? Is it consumer affairs or somebody with a big stick? We don't have a big stick.
So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is, briefly, is this pilot program that DYCD has sort of soft launched. It's called the Performance Partnership Pilot, P3.
We need a sexy name.
I can never remember what comes first, the partnership or the performance, so I stick with P3, it's just easier. So this pot of funding has been around since the Obama administration. And the goal of it, let me move my slides. The goal of P3 writ large was to try to help local areas bring programming together that is otherwise difficult to bring together because of federal regulations and performance measures that might get in the way. So the maximum amount for this round of funding that somebody could get would be $250,000, and that's what we applied for, and that's what we received. And the idea, again, is to really see how can we break down barriers between service delivery systems, specifically for disconnected or opportunity youth. So we had this idea that, we have a relatively strong, I think, WIOA out-of-school youth program portfolio. Is everyone aware of what the out-of-school youth program is and what it does? Well, broadly, it serves youth who are 16 to 24, who are not working and not in school, and it's a very comprehensive program. It provides work readiness training, occupational skills training, academic remediation, access to high school equivalency testing if you need it, guidance and counseling, help with supportive services, so it's very comprehensive. And this is something that we really tried to leverage through this model. So we're focused on removing barriers to program participation for 50 young parents. That's what we decided to focus on with this small amount of money. How can we help young parents who may have difficulty with childcare, who may not be aware or know how to access services that they are eligible for, to get them childcare when they walk in the door, and help them stay in a program as long as they need to stay to get what they need to get so that they can build their family life and their careers. In the larger conversation about out-of-school youth, I'm sure many of you are aware, they have a lot of things maybe standing in the way of them being able to participate consistently in a program. They're often caregivers to their own children, to their siblings, to adults in their lives. They have, a lot of responsibilities at a young age. They may not have had a great experience in institutions, in school. They may not have a high school diploma, and they may not have any formal work experience. And they may also be involved in systems like the foster care system or the juvenile justice system, all of which, prevents them from really being able to come into something and commit to it. And OSY programs are really designed, and our hope is that they can solve all those problems, but it's difficult to do. So the model that we have is to have a young person through Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow, which is one of our historically strongest OSY providers, help young people when they are enrolling in the program also apply for publicly funded child care resources through ACS's Early Learn programs, so that simultaneously they're doing both things at the same time. And that may seem like a no-brainer, like why wouldn't you do that anyway? And to an extent that's true. However, I don't know if anybody's looked at the ACS application, and public applications, they're not easy to navigate. It's long. You need a lot of information at your disposal to fill it out. You have to physically take it to a place and submit it. You will get a letter at some point if it's not correct. So there are a lot of ways that, that could sort of fall apart, or, time will go by and maybe you haven't heard, and it just sort of starts to fall off the radar. So what we really want to do is to make sure that that doesn't happen. So to make sure that that doesn't happen, OBT is going to receive funding to hire 2 child care navigators. And their role is sort of, the way I think about it, is threefold. The first thing that we want them to do is to understand the public child care options and to help our young participants apply. ACS is so generously going to help train these staff and help them sort of shepherd these applications through, but that's really a primary responsibility of the navigator. Sit down with the young person, sit down with the documents they need, really walk them through the process. What do you need to do? What do you need to have? What copies of what documents do you need? And then we'll take you to where you need to go to submit all of this paperwork. We want them to help the young person get those options back and decide what is a quality child care placement, what works for you. Is it an in-home family situation? Is it more center-based? What should you look for as a parent to really help walk young parents through that? And then on an ongoing basis, we're hoping that they can support our parents through workshops and just through any other parenting support that they will need, which I think is going to start to morph into like a case management type of model. But I think it's going to enrich OBT's existing program in a really important way. Oh, the other not small thing that we're doing is we are going to lengthen the amount of time that these pilot participants can spend in an OSY program from up to 12 months to up to 24. So, with the knowledge that the high school equivalency test has gotten harder, it's also access to testing has gotten harder. It takes a longer time to get a test date. There are certain things that you have to do that you didn't have to do before. It just takes a long time. So we want to make sure that a young person can come in and stay in and, do what they need to do, get their equivalency, and get everything else that OBT can offer them. So that's pretty huge. So yes, ACS is hiring a part-time liaison on their side to make sure that the applications that we submit for our P3 participants get through the process, that there is a point of contact, that you're not just putting it into the government, ether someplace, but that someone has actually got a name and a phone number that the navigator at OBT or the young person can call and say, hey, what's going on? And then, again, talking about the length of time that young people will have. As I said, other services include occupational training, work readiness training. All of our OSY programs offer a paid work experience piece. And obviously placement in employment or post-secondary education. And I should, I really want to add, and Ray, this should make you happy, that part of the model includes doing an evaluation. So we will be looking at how these young people do versus other similar youth in our OSY programs, and really what are the lessons learned. I think for the city as a whole, ACS is interested in seeing if having a dedicated staff person can help increase the number of young children that are placed in their programs, in their funded programs. HRA is going to be helping us identify participants. We're looking at, working with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene around services that they provide for young parents and young children. So we're really trying to, bring together the existing resources. And I have to say, as someone who's been around government for a long time now, it's strange, but getting a smaller amount of money, I feel in some ways, is forced us to be more creative and to really figure out how can we leverage what already exists, because this is already all out there. I mean, one of the things that we love about this is that these young people are eligible for, if they're eligible for WIOA, they're eligible to get this child care. They're eligible for other sources of funding that we may use. So it's just, how do we bring it all together at one time and present it as a package to a young person who needs it right now? They need this list of services right now, and we can do it right now. So that's the goal. OBT is already recruiting young people. Their child care navigators start work on Monday. We're very, very excited. CYE has been a tremendous partner. ACS has been a tremendous partner. The Children's Cabinet and all the people on the side, it's really been a collaborative effort, and we're very excited.
Thank you so much. Just in the advent of time, since we have 10 minutes, if anyone has any other follow-up questions, please see Megan. Thank you so much for the presentation. As you know, if you've entered any Walgreens, CVS, Duane Reade, the holiday season is fast approaching. We see Christmas stuff already in February for some strange reason, but you do know that DYCD's Smiles of Love gift drive is also fast approaching. And first and foremost, thank you to the youth board members and committee members who made donations last year. They're totally greatly appreciated. Of course, we invite you to participate and donate in this year's drive, and we'll have Vanessa and Rosalia of the Youth Connect are here to let you know more about this year's drive.
Thank you so much. This is actually our first time. Vanessa unfortunately had to step out due to her personal duties, but she'll be back hopefully soon. My name is Rosalia. I'm part of the Youth Connect team, and most of the things that we do is handle the hotline and also go out to do community outreach, to reach out to different communities and provide the different resources that we have here at DYCD. And we go around all across the 5 boroughs. So one of the things that we've been thankful to do is the Smiles of Love project. And thank you, Commissioner Beltran, for supporting that, and Anthony for allowing us to speak on this matter. Over the years, as you know, we've collected toys for the youth, ages 5 years old to 24. And most of the programs that we're targeting are after-school programs, family support services, as well as runaway and homeless youth services. In the past years, it's been quite large and it's become more and more successful. But this year, we're trying to do a slightly different approach. Being our first time coordinating the project, we want to make sure everything goes accordingly. So it might be a little bit more downsized compared to previous years. And we just want to also extend our appreciation to those who have supported us in the past. Are any of you here that might have been part of that? The donations? Do you want to share your experience and how it was to just
like an interest in how brief, but our employees love taking part, and I think they came and laughed as well.
Yeah.
And really kind of all, so we're looking forward to doing it again.
Thank you, and we
We
appreciate
ran out of
it.
wrapping paper. That's what
We
we
can
wanted to
donate
do.
that too.
We appreciate that, thank you. And for any of you who would like to continue to support us in this project, or any new members who would like to begin to do that, you would be more than happy to please contact Vanessa or myself, or also Andre Joseph. So just a little bit of recap, our deadlines to collect the toys will be November 30th, and it will be here and delivered at 123 William Street on the 17th floor. And also, if you want to contact Vanessa or myself, my phone number is 646-343-6762, and Vanessa's number is 646-343-6756. And again, if you would like to support, feel free to contact us. We will begin collecting approximately the first week of November to the last week of November, and then we'll be happy to wrap them all up and share it with the youth, and we'll be happy to make sure it puts a nice smile on their face. So we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So last we have Scott Leach, Director of the DYCD's Fatherhood Programs, that's going to talk to us about Take Your Child to School Day, which is fast approaching.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Scott Leach. How many people know about the Father Initiative program here at DYCD? Okay, great. So then I can move even quicker. So I have a one-pager for those who don't know, and I can share a little bit about it. Once again, our goal is to engage fathers with their children as much as possible. That we want to have fathers interacting on a regular basis with their children, financially and supportively also. Thank you. But I want to talk about Dad Take Your Child to School Day, which is a national campaign that's happening across the country. And this is actually the 11th year that New York State has done it. Right now, I'm kind of the lead person, or DYCD is the lead organization, heading up for the 5 boroughs of New York City and some of the state also. So, Dad Take Your Child to School Day, once again, it's a day opportunity for fathers to go to register, to go to school with their children. In the package of I'll see this also, it's a flyer. Okay. Like I said, it's been 11 years that we've been doing this consistently around the country. Go to this, no, go to resident. No, sorry. Yeah. Okay, going to the bottom. So this year, we already have close to 400 schools registered this year in New York City alone, around New York City alone. See if you would go to the bottom again. You see, so 490. Oh, it just went up. It was 88, it was 488, just went to 489. But if you go through the screen, go back up real quickly. We have places all over the country that are taking part in it. The zip code. You see, we have New Jersey. If you keep going up, we have people from California, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Iowa. We've had people as far as a year before. We had people as far as Puerto Rico registered for Dad Take Your Child to School Day. Why are we taking part in it? Because this is a great day that we have fathers engaged with their children, but also get fathers engaged with their children as far as academically. We know that, unfortunately, there's a myth that low-income fathers do not care about their children. This is a way of busting that myth and showing that how many fathers come out to that day or to spend quality time throughout the year with their children. We're doing our kickoff this year up in Harlem with the Harlem YMCA. We're doing it in collaboration with the Harlem YMCA and 6 schools within the area of the YMCA. We're going to have a big parade leading the YMCA, marching with fathers and children to their schools. Once again, this actually came out of what's called the Black Star Project, which came out of the Millionaire march that happened 20 years ago. So Black Star Project, which out of Chicago, they've been doing it for 18 years out there. New York started taking it on about 11 years ago, doing it on a regular basis. So if you all want any more information, but you're more happy. If you look also, once again, if you want to go to the website, which is Dad Take Your Child School, if you look at your zip code, you can find schools in your neighborhood that are taking part in this event. We're also going to be doing something different this year that through DYCD directly. I'm working with the Cornerstone Beacon SONYC programs. I'm missing one. SONYC, Beacon, Cornerstone, Compass. We're going to do this between September and November. We're going to do a campaign here at DYCD, Bring Your Dad to After School program. So we're going to do it directly with our programs here directly, that all the Compass programs, after school programs, Keenan programs are going to do something father initiative related to their school. We have eight agencies that have contracts with us with DYCD. We will be also dispersing those agencies. This year is the first year that we have one father program in every borough of New York City. We're really excited about that. So we have the whole 5 boroughs covered. Even Staten Island right now has a father program. We're happy about that. So once again, we service any fathers that come to our program, and we're excited about that. We're doing something, a new initiative also. We're doing co-parenting classes with the fathers too. In the past, we've had moms come to graduation and says, well, you made a difference in him, what about me? So this year in our contract, we purposely put in that we're going to be doing co-parenting classes with the moms also. Yeah. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Such a great program. Thank you so much. So we are on time, but certainly would love to, if the members have any announcements that they would like to share or
One thing I forgot to say. So our app, which I think we saw last year, Discovery DYCD, won a state award. It's one of the best apps in the public. And the app basically allows people to type in their address or a zip code, and they have Google Maps leading them to the nearest DYCD program, the description of the program, how to access services. And so we won an award. Our IT staff will come to Albany at the end of the month. The other winner was another New York City program, Access New York, which is I think an HRA program that helps streamline access to benefits.
congratulations to all the staff. That's fantastic. So thank you. My apologies to rush through the end of this. Thank you for indulging me in my first nervous chair meeting. You're all very gentle and generous. We will be in touch with everyone, and please follow up, and we look forward to the next meeting.
Next meeting is December 6th. And then we'll also email again about the next program committee meeting. Again, we want to have those in between each quarterly meeting, so look out for us to know about that as well. Thank you.